Hello and welcome to Ventana Wildlife Society's The Condor Chat. We have these at the last Thursday of every month, except for the holidays, which get changed, but we'll give you an update about that. The Condor Chats are a wonderful portal directly to the people who are working with condors in the field, the people you see here on our panel today. If you're new to our Condor Chat, Ventana Wildlife Society is primarily focused in Central California. We work with many different partners in the zoos and also other release sites. And our focus is to release the condors to the wild, care and manage those birds, provide vaccinations, other treatments as necessary, discover causes of death, and try to manage those causes of death, most importantly, so that eventually condors can once again survive independent of human assistance. But for now, we have this wonderful team that are out there almost every single day of the year, monitoring the birds, caring for these birds, trapping the birds. In fact, I think we'll hear a little story about that on this chat today. Yeah, just great to have you here. Can't do this in person and reach all of you from all over the country and sometimes overseas as well. So thanks for being here. And I'll turn it over to the Condor Program Manager, Joe Burnett.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, everyone, for joining again. It's our September edition of the Condor Chat. God, I can't believe it's September. We have a full docket today of stuff we're going to talk about. Just real quickly here, we're going to talk about San Simeon. We had to do a lot of prep down there for the arrival of the rookies. I got a little quick rebuild update. Also an update on the HPI vaccinations. Mike's going to speak briefly about non-lead. We do have an update on Bucky, 1087. And we also have some news on the Big Sur trapping front. And of course, we'll talk about the population. Evan gave us one of his awesome maps showing September movements. We had some really exciting movements for September. And of course, the latest on nesting. And I am joined today by an awesome crew of folks. As I said earlier, we got Mike Stake here for non-lead. We have our condor biologist. We have Danae Mouton, and Darren Gross is actually live from the Condor Sanctuary in Big Sur. Pretty cool, via Starlink out there. So that's something that we don't do all the time. And of course, we have Rachel and Griffin down there holding down the fort down at San Simeon, and they have a lot of exciting updates to share from down there. The photos for this month's crew shot this was on our work day before and after. It was a long day, and yeah, we had a lot of fun, got a lot of work done, and yeah, we wanted to get the pin spick and span for the new birds for our newest release group. So it takes the whole crew. It's a lot of work, but everybody did awesome, and we got everything ready. Yeah, here's the crew bouncing around in the pen, and Danae, jump in. You were there that day. Yeah, we're here. I think these photos were working on perches.
Yeah, we got quite a bit accomplished in just one day. It was a long day, but we got a lot of stuff done. We put in some fresh perches in the pen, some nice sturdy new branches, especially in that kind of outer part where we release the birds from. So hopefully they'll have some nice solid perches to stand on right before they leave the pen. Yeah, and just cleaned up a lot in there, did some structural work on the pen, removed some paneling and stuff that we had on from a previous season, and just kind of cleaned things up and fixed up some problem areas so that, you know, it's nice and safe and secure for the birds. And then, yeah, that photo there of Rachel and Griffin on the left, they're working hard. They put in a whole new staircase, basically. Our previous staircase was kind of falling apart, just got totally destroyed by ground squirrels. So they basically used some pickaxes and tools and got right into it and built that staircase themselves. And they're going to be using it a lot over the coming weeks as they're watching the birds. That's the staircase that goes up to the blind where they watch the birds from. So Yeah, it was a big effort by everyone, but we got everything done that we needed to get done. So it was all ready for some new birds.
Yeah, it was a good time for Rachel and Griffin to get kind of acquainted with the pen, being that they're going to be up there watching these birds quite a bit. So it was cool to familiarize them with everything and seeing how the cables work, right, Griff? It's inside joke. Yeah. But yeah, it was a good time to get everybody kind of understanding how the pen works. And yeah, there's a whole method to the madness there. We have different doors that work for different functions and cables that operate them, and everything's got to be squeaky clean and smooth. Big Sur cabin rebuild real quick. Darren's got the cabin right behind him there. You can kind of see there's a live shot of the cabin. Yeah, things are going really well. We're working hard on the interior. Also started work yesterday on the eaves and the fireproof in the eaves. Those are going to be, that's a pretty critical fire measure we're going to take to protect the structure. Yeah, so everything's going on track. And yeah, next steps would be putting up walls inside, sealing up the walls inside the cabin. And again, it's a step-by-step approach following obviously our county inspector and following protocol there. So making sure we're to code. So yeah, it's just a process, but we're making a lot of good headway. So we're excited. It's getting close. Definitely see the light at the end of the tunnel. Just an exciting time every month, and Big Sur presents just different stuff, and you just see amazing things all the time on the job. And sometimes you see stuff you like, sometimes you see stuff that scare you. And yeah, the rattlesnakes are still out and about. This is their last hurrah before winter hits and they go hide for the winter. But yeah, they're still out and about and always cool to see. And yeah, condors chasing this shot above, condors in full chase right here. You can see the bird in the front looking over its shoulder, over its wing at the bird behind it that's in pursuit. Again, lots of territorial and dominant stuff going on all the time. And then the photo on the left, sometimes you just get a real treat. You're out putting carcasses out at night and the moon is setting on the ocean with the stars. And I don't know, you can't, that picture doesn't even really grasp it, but see some pretty amazing things. So I thought it was be cool to share a few photos from the Big Sur Sanctuary. HPI update. Yeah, we made some progress this month. We're going to make even more progress in the next couple weeks. We're now at 31 of 99 wild condors vaccinated. We are currently trapping away. We actually have an update on that. Pinnacle's just handled 4 birds this last week. We're about to handle a bunch next week and probably the week after that. So that number is going to increase dramatically. We're hoping it's going to get close to 50 of 99, so we can be halfway there. Our 12 pre-release birds this year are all vaccinated. The birds are coming up vaccinated, which is nice. And again, our pre-fledged wild chicks have not been vaccinated, and we won't be able to do that till they follow mom and dad back to the release pen and we're able to catch them there. And that's when we can protect them against HPI and give them a vaccination. All right, non-lead program. Mike, you're on.
Thank you, Joe. And we had someone come in for free non-lead ammunition just a few minutes ago, even after this web chat started. So we're always working here. Even when we're on camera, we're giving out ammo. And so all good things. And, you know, we've talked about all of these dots on the map. We look at maps a lot and we're finding out where the condors are feeding by the use of those GPS tags that your crew works so hard at putting on the birds and following them. And so we can figure out where they're likely feeding and prioritize those landowners for outreach. And in the process, those dots will become people that we connect with. And I'm proud to say that my assistant, Derek Whitmer, will be visiting with a landowner in San Benito County and going shooting with that landowner. And I'm so pleased that Ventana can make that type of a connection with a landowner and talk about condors and talk about non-lead ammunition. Just yesterday, I got an email that I'd like to share with you from one of those red dots out there, one of those high priority areas where condors are feeding. And the landowner says, "Hello, Mike. I've been a part of your free ammo program for many years. I own a pretty big ranch in the Diablo Mountains east of Tres Pinos. I'm a licensed hunting guide and do big game hunts there, so we utilize a lot of trail cameras. This morning, I had 3 condors visit one of our springs for a drink, and I got a couple of pics of them. I could make out a number 10 and a number 11 on 2 of the tags. Now, I see them flying overhead a lot and doing their thing every year, but this is the only second time I've got them on my camera. Thanks again for the awesome free ammo program. I have sent a lot of friends to that awesome program." And so I was excited to get that message. And for those of you expert condor spotters and followers out there, we have 116 of you with us right now on the chat. Maybe your quiz here by the end of the web chat will be, who do those tags belong to, number 10 and number 11? Can you get that? That's a challenging question that will maybe even take the condor biologist a little time to figure out, but that'll be your little quiz there. So pleased that we're making connections with these people out there and turning these dots to non-lead outreach for condor recovery. We're also talking this week about a potential new product that can help with the 22 shortage. It's a product that Winchester is coming out with called the 21. Not 22, but 21 sharp, they call it. Now, that might sound like a cheddar cheese to you or a Mozart concerto. Either way, we'll sort of think about this new product in the coming weeks, see if we can find it, see how well it works as a potential alternative to the very scarce 22 long rifle. And just hearing about the 21 sharp is music to my ears. Joe?
Yeah, that's great news. That's an interesting caliber, 21. But hey, if it works in a 22, right?
It is very similar to the 22. It's easier to mass produce, and it has some ballistic advantages over the 22. That's what makes it so intriguing, but it would be a different rifle.
Oh, it is a different rifle. Okay. Yeah, that's a big deal. Well, thanks, Mike. Always good to hear the latest on non-lead. That letter, that email was pretty awesome. Yeah. Folks figure out who those birds were. I like it. All right, our Bucky update. Danae, you want to share about Bucky?
Sure. Yeah. So Bucky's doing really great, first off. To kind of dive into the timeline of what happened with him, July 26th was when he was recovered in the wild by a California Department of Fish and Wildlife officer. He was really sick with lead poisoning at the time, and so we brought him up to Oakland Zoo to get treated there. And he had a couple fragments, lead fragments in his system and his GI tract. So he started receiving treatment right away, and luckily he was able to cast up all of the fragments that he had in his system. So it took about a month for that to happen, and his weight had dropped pretty low at that point. And so Oakland Zoo has graciously decided to allowed us to keep him there, and they've been keeping a really close eye on him. And just feeding him lots of yummy, delicious, high protein food. And his weight has increased a lot. So as of September 17th, his weight was up to 17 pounds, which is a nice, healthy weight for a juvenile bird of 1087's age. So he's been cleared for release for a little while now, and especially now that his weight is kind of where we want it. he's all ready to go back into the flock. And so Oakland Zoo is actually going to come down on October 1st next week and help us out with some HPI vaccinations. And so they're going to bring Bucky down with them. We'll put some transmitters on him, and he'll be released back into the wild from Big Sur. So October 9th potentially is when we're going to release him. We will probably hold him for about a week just in the Big Sur pen, let him acclimate a little bit, and get accustomed to Big Sur again, because he's been away for a little while. But we're excited to have him back out in the wild. He's definitely, this bird, as I know a lot of you know, has had a tumultuous journey from when he was first released into the wild. He had an eye injury that thankfully he's fully recovered from, and then now lead poisoning that now he's fully recovered from. So he's definitely proving to be a quirky but resilient bird for sure. So yeah, big thank you to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, Pacific Wild Care, which is where he first went when he was taken from the wild. They took great care of him until Oakland Zoo could take over. So big shout out to all of our partners there. He's actually no longer on the Oakland Zoo Condor Cam, but another Condor 943 is being treated at Oakland Zoo. So you can still see condors on the Oakland Zoo Condor Cam. So definitely check it out if you haven't already. It's super fun. I know all of us were checking in on Bucky in the office whenever we had office days, and he looked awesome. And 943 is looking the same. 943 is a bit older, so he's behaves a little bit differently than Bucky did. But yeah, Oakland Zoo does great work, and we really can't thank them enough.
Yeah, boy, Oakland Zoo has definitely been saving the day lately, coming down to help us vaccinate birds and treating our sick birds. And yeah, we'll be very excited to get Bucky back out. We're going to definitely let him reacclimate a little bit to the crew up there at Big Sur. We think we're trying to get him to mesh a little more in Big Sur and stick around. So we're hoping this little acclimation period would not only kind of let him settle in, but make some bonds and hang out with some of these other birds his age. Big Sur trapping. All right, Darren, give us the update, buddy, from the sanctuary. You've been busy, huh?
Yeah. Well, first, I guess just to go back to the beginning of the week, and huge thank you to Kara and Danae, who started this week trapping and spent full days in the trap, just watching the birds, looking at the carcasses and not going in the trap, which is frustrating, as we're always waiting and just eager to get them, and yeah, just to try to trap them there. But yeah, they I don't know, Karen and Danae were troopers, and I just got lucky yesterday that the birds finally broke and went in the trap, and I was able to get I didn't get all the birds at once, did not get all 12 at once, but yeah, just got them in batches as they kind of trickled in. But yeah, all 12 birds are kind of settling into the pen right now, and until he can handle them next week. But yeah, it was a rush. That was the first time I had been in there trapping since 2019. So it was definitely an adjustment getting back into it, but it was awesome.
Yeah, that was yeah, I think if folks only knew how often you get skunked more often than you actually catch them. So it's one of those, we all go through it. It's part of being a condor biologist. When you're trying to trap these guys, the birds always have a way of outsmarting you, but eventually we get them. So yeah, great job to the whole crew for that.
Well, I noticed you got a couple of old birds in there too. You got 168 and
yeah, Beak Boy's in there, 209 Shadow. Yeah, we got some of the big dogs in the flock. So yeah, they're all due for vaccinations. 168, right? Danae needs a transmitter.
Yeah, we have 168 and 745, who's a Pinnacles bird, but those birds were both stealth, which means they didn't have working radio transmitters. So it's going to be great to get working radio transmitters on them as well.
Yeah, and there on the left is the famous 729 Ninja. Everyone knows from the drama of the Nico nest. So yeah, we got a whole cast of characters in there, and when you catch this many birds, one of the things we really watch is we watch the behavior really close, because you got the hierarchy compacted in a really small area. So we were watching for aggression and making sure 209 and some of the big dogs aren't pushing around the birds too much. But so far, Darren, it seems like they're all getting along.
Yeah, let me get back here.
There's the propane tank.
Yeah, I was trying to show there's a couple of birds soaring around right now. But yeah, everyone's getting along pretty well. I mean, we always look for any sort of aggressive interactions, especially with the dominant birds being in that confined space and being around a bunch of other birds. They can get a little pushy, but yeah, so far everyone's getting along pretty well. They've mostly been perched. They're loving the water, drinking lots of water, and yeah, I got some carcasses in there for them last night, so they've been feeding too. So yeah, they're getting more comfortable in there, but yeah, we're stoked to get them new transmitters and their H5 vaccinations next week, and so we can release them.
Yeah, the photo on the right's great. So you were to explain to everybody where you're taking these photos from, maybe.
Yeah, I was just like in our blind. I don't know how well you can see from here, but yeah, at the pen there, we have the like nice building structure that's our blind and windows with like one-way glass screen on all of them, so we can look into the pen and see the birds, but they can't see us. And there's perches like right there by the windows, and also the roof of the right by the windows. So like we get to see lots of interactions between birds in the pen and then birds that are outside and like checking things out. We get to see that up close. And yeah, it's really great just to see all the details on these birds, like faces, their bodies, their feathers. I mean, it's so wild. I mean, they're cool anyway you see them, but when you see them up close like this, it's a like a I don't know, it's a totally different view. Gives you a totally different perspective.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing all those pics, because it's always cool to see that firsthand view of what we see when we're in there trapping.
Yeah. Thank you guys, and yeah, thanks Danae for working it out. I was having to get these photos in there. Definitely easier sending them to you all. So thank you.
All right, rookie transfer. We had been anxiously awaiting this, and it finally happened. Yeah, it was a big effort. Maybe Danae, you were part of that transfer. I think you'd be the best person to speak to it. You and
Yeah.
Rachel and Griffin.
Yeah, I can start us off here with the transfer, and then I'll let Rachel and Griffin take over when we dip into who these birds are, because they know the birds better than I do. But yeah, so we went down on September 17th to LA Zoo, Kara and I, along with Rachel and Griffin. We drove down and picked up all 6 of our rookies, kenneled them all up in the morning, and put them in the vehicles, and then drove them right up to San Simeon and released them into the pen probably like 5 hours later. So they were not in kennels very long. It was very, very easy for the birds, which is how we like it. And they all did really well. A couple of them were a little more feisty than others, but they definitely all like settled in really quickly. And that transfer just went super smoothly, largely in part due to LA Zoo and the team there. So huge shout out to them. They did a great job raising these birds from eggs to about a year and a half, which is how old they all are. So we have 4 males and 2 females in our cohort. And yeah, awesome job, Mike Clark. You can see there in kind of that center photo is showing how we kennel a bird. He's putting a bird into a kennel in that photo. You kind of hold them in this pretty unique grip in order to safely put them in the kennel so they don't get out of the kennel and bite you while you're trying to put them in a kennel. Very key, very important hold that he's doing there. And then you can see Rianne and Griffin loading up one of the kennels into the SUV there on the right. But it all went very smoothly. And yeah, again, just huge shout out to LA Zoo for taking great care of these birds and getting them all ready to go. It went very smoothly.
Yeah, they did some cool propagation stuff this year. The team there at LA Zoo, they're pretty cutting edge. They, Mike and the team, they've been raising, having parents raise multiple chicks, something that hasn't been tried before. So I think a couple of our birds were raised in either double broods, and this year they did their first triple brood, which they had 3 chicks raised by 1 pair, which is pretty amazing. And the benefit there is we get more parent reared birds, we get more birds for release. It actually increases the number of birds we can get out in the wild. So it takes a village, as we say. The captive side is so critical. It's very as equally as important as what we're doing. We can't do one without the other. So yeah, big shout out to LA. They've been a great partner over the years, and innovators. That's what's been pretty cool. Okay, rookie arrival. The welcome to San Simeon. Yeah, Rachel and Griffin, what were their expression? It's always funny when I'm going to share this video that Meredith did, but I think I think it is funny that when they leave the LA Zoo, and then all of a sudden they're they're dropped off in the middle of the wilderness down here in San Simeon. All right, let me see if I can do this. I got to play a video here. Trying a new technique, folks, so bear with me. I see Kelly with a panicked look on his face. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. Rookie arrival.
Why is it important to me to like have the birds here? Like, what does this part of the project mean?
It is just so, it's like a sense of pride just seeing them one step closer to being like wild birds. Already this is a new environment for them, but like they feel the breeze and they're instinctively like getting their wings out, like ready to fly. It's just like that innate sense that they have from the natural world that they're around. They just know what to do. Just need a small little push from some dedicated people.
Every time we get a new cohort of birds in, you know, it's exciting. It's like, you know, because you know now those birds are a part of the flock, and you know, even though they haven't joined the rest yet, that is their destiny. And yeah, it's just exciting to see where these birds are at now and think of where they're gonna go. Yeah, I just love them.
Did that video play okay for everybody?
Yeah, it sure did. I thought it was great. Those are some great comments.
Yeah, and it was Meredith did her best on the sound, but we have to whisper when we're in the blind, and she was trying to capture some of the some of the dialogue the crew was having right after because it is pretty cool. It's inspiring to see these birds go out, and as Darren nailed it, it's cool to see where they're going to go. I think he kind of hit the nail on the head there, and Griffin too. So yeah, always a cool moment. And obviously when we release them, it's even a bigger deal. So yeah, it's the build up now to release. So it's pretty exciting. And then getting to know the individual birds. We got the rookie lineup here. So we got Rachel and Griffin are going to jump in and take turns telling us about the different birds. And have you guys picked up on any personalities, any hierarchy stuff?
I think a little bit, yeah, especially 1181 here, definitely the largest of the bunch, and has been a little more aggressive, we've noticed, around feeding. He'll definitely displace other birds, so he's sort of establishing himself more near the top, I think, so far.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, and I guess also for 1181, well, all the birds are very close to each other. We've seen them like not just feeding together, but like just perched in a little line together. And even once we saw them, just a little story about 1181, but they were all kind of like lying down on the ground together in the DDT, like in a little shady patch, because it was pretty hot this week when we were observing them. And all of the birds were there, like right next to each other, lying down, except for 1181. And I think, or we think, he was getting a little jealous or something. So he was like pacing around watching them for like 15 minutes, and all of a sudden he just flies down and like dive bombs them, or just like sits immediately in the pile and like causes them all to like disperse and go. So
awesome.
Just a little, maybe he was having a bad day, maybe he was like, yeah, feeling some type of
Feeling
way.
left out.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it was a little
We've
targeted.
all
I think
been
he did
there.
it.
Come on.
For it twice. He flew down, and then like 10 minutes later he was back up on the perch and just did it again. There was some
Yeah, and it's early, but yeah, it's cool. It sounds like you guys are already seeing some patterns.
Yeah, 1200. She's one of the two females, also pretty small. I'd say the second smallest bird. And she, I think, also isn't, or she's like pretty low on the dominance hierarchy. We haven't seen her doing much displacements, but she is really, I guess, like gentle with other birds. We've seen some like allopreening, and just also like lying in the shade again together, with her like other friends. But
Yeah, and I think share with folks how we're tracking size. Like we have some tools in the we have
yeah.
the
Mhm.
scale.
In the actual rookie pen, there's a scale like or like on one of the perches. There's a scale where the birds can actually like sometimes walk up, and they don't do it very often, but when they do, we're like right there ready with our binoculars just to see, just to take their weight, just to make sure they're healthy and not losing weight. And yeah, 1200. Well, they're usually about like 18 pounds, I'd say, but 1200 and especially 1233 around 14 pounds. So definitely smaller.
Yeah, Mike was saying that when they came up from LA. He's like, these birds are small, they're feisty. He said there's nothing wrong with them. They're just lighter, smaller birds. Yeah, we've seen that over the years. Just some birds have smaller statures, others have really big stature. You know, you got birds like Puff Daddy and that are just monsters, and then you have, you know, birds like 236 who's nesting over at Pinnacle. She's kind of a smaller stature bird, you know, so just the variation in size, that's cool.
Yeah. I think 1208's been sort of a lone wolf so far. We got these like reports from the LA Zoo when when we retrieved the birds, and for most of them it was like active and like social, and then for 1208 I think it just said like, what was it?
Disposition.
It was just disposition,
Yeah.
like depressed or something,
Yeah.
or like quieter. And we've seen that a little bit. He's definitely still interacting with the other birds, and he's a very charismatic bird, but more often than not, he's a little more distanced. He's very, very quiet. But yeah, he'll still cuddle with the birds in that corner that Rachel was talking about every once in a while. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's also, I mean, at least to us, he's been kind of goofy. We like walked into the blind once, and right when we opened up the little like trash bag tarp that we use, he was completely like drenched in water. Like he had been standing in the like little pool that we have in there. And yeah, he was kind of like dripping and had to like just stand there drying out for a little bit before he like finally decided to like fly up in sun.
Wow, so yeah, there's some personality shaking out, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, here's a bird dog piling on the ground.
Yeah. I don't know if I have much to say about 1226. Honestly, he's pretty middling so far, honestly, for me at least, from what I've noticed.
1226, he was, I think, the one who was trying to be like acting like top dog, trying to like displace birds on the perch. But then when he finally got to trying to displace 1181, like 1181 wasn't having it. So I think, yeah, he wants to be top dog, but he knows, I think he's not. At least from these past 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, he did have a really funny interaction with 936 the other day though. 936 managed to kind of find this little spot to perch like right next to 1226, and he was like not phased by it, and they were just kind of sat next to each other. Like obviously the cage was still there to separate them, but they could fully like interact with each other, and they were just like checking each other out. It was really fun to watch.
Yes, because the wild birds have been coming in. You guys sent some photos of that. I'm going to show here in a second.
Yeah. 1232 is the one, was like one of the first interactions I think I saw with the new rookies. And this was when Penny, one of the other like young birds, I think similar in age, but wild born, she came and visited the pen, and she was one of the like younger birds that has come visited. All the others have been a bit older, so we saw her just kind of like stomping around on the roof, like kind of crawling along the sides, and she took a particular interest in 1232, I would say, because when she was trying to like crawl up the side of the fence, she would stop immediately in front of 1232 and just kind of like poke her bill in, and 1232 was kind of poking his bill out, so they were definitely having a moment there.
Yeah, they're same age. You know,
Yeah.
they're right there. So that makes sense. That's really cool. Yeah, 1229. Penny, yeah, she's bouncing around.
Sure. Yeah, 1233, the other female. Yeah, and this is the bird we were talking about, was only 14 pounds. So she's super tiny. She is also, oh yeah, the fun fact, she was in the double brood with 1232. So kind of think of them as like brother and sister. And they are also like cuddly, I guess I would say. Also, like I love when they lie down, especially like on the ground, they kind of get really flat and just look like, I don't know, kind of like cats almost. But yeah, 1233 and 1232 like to just be together, I guess.
1233 is kind of feisty, honestly. Like she's very small and I think is compensating for that a little bit. But she's super active and just super curious about all the birds that are outside the pen looking at them and just always interacting with the other rookies in the pen there. Yeah, she's always fun to watch.
Yeah, what's happening in these photos?
Yes. I'm glad you included these ones. This is 758 Thunder Chief, who is always haunting this area, especially now that the rookies are here. He's almost very often here. And this particular day he was just being like aggressive. I would say bothering them, but I'm not sure if they were bothered. He was just kind of, you can see here, whenever a bird would try to go up and take a drink, he'd be right there in their face. Whenever the birds would be trying to eat, like you see in the picture on the right, he'd be like right above them, staring at them and like even grunting sometimes. I think he was definitely like, I don't know if he was having a problem that he didn't have any food and they did, but yeah, he's been pretty aggressive with the rookies.
Yeah, he's definitely been trying to establish dominance there early on. He'll just like do laps around the pen. We'll just like see him running by. He's on the roof a lot looking down at them. Yeah, he's very interested in the new cohort.
Well, yeah, because if that cage wasn't there, he would be boss.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think that's
Exactly.
the part that throws him off. He goes, "Oh my God, they're getting away with it. How are they eating without me?"
Exactly, yeah. They're gonna get a rude awakening once they're released in November.
Welcome to Thunder Chief. That's what they're gonna get.
Exactly.
I love her. Yeah.
I love this photo. I think, Rachel, you took this. It's hilarious.
Yeah, she was just, I don't know, she looks derpy right there. Her face is directly facing the camera, so it just looks like it'll be.
I love what's in her face.
Yeah, I really
got a little snack there, a little scapula or something.
She was chewing this little scapula. Yeah, it came detached from the calf, and she went to off in her own little corner to snack.
Yeah, such a cute. I mean, that if that doesn't capture their personality, I don't know what does. That photo really captures what these birds how they express themselves. Pretty cool. Well, thanks for all that. That's pretty exciting. And you're going to get to know them even better, more and more over the next few weeks. So we're excited to keep hearing updates and and look forward to hearing how they've all kind of how things have shaken out by the next Condor chat,
Yeah, super excited to see with these next couple weeks how more of their personalities and
Definitely.
Yeah, but already it sounds like they're really showing themselves. That's pretty cool. Usually sometimes they show up and it takes a while, but that's awesome. You guys are diving right in.
Yeah, they're pretty settled in. Can't wait to see what they have in store for us.
Oh, I had a video. Oh, here it is.
Oh God.
I think it'll play. No, I don't have the video, but I don't know why it's not playing. But maybe you can describe, this is that when they were all feeding at the same time on the carcass, right?
Yes, this is a little feeding frenzy that happened, I think, the morning after we put in a new carcass. So I think this was, they didn't have, well, I guess they didn't eat over the weekend. We put in a new carcass on Monday, and then they all went at it at once, which was pretty cool to see. Usually there's like a couple, then like one or two are off to the side, but yeah, they were dragging it around. It was kind of, I don't know.
I was cracking up because you made a funny comparison.
Yes, yeah, because they were very, very hungry and they looked like, I don't know, little blobs. But yeah, hungry hippos, if you know the game, they are going
Rachel
at
sent this to
it.
all of us. We all lost it. It was so funny because it hits the nail on the head. I was like, God, what does that remind you of? And then she sent the photo. Everyone knows Hungry Hippo. I mean, it's too awesome. Yeah, that's yeah, I think it's cool how tight the group is. I mean, that's really cool that they're that, they're working together that well. I mean, that's a great thing for post when they get out and get released. They'll watch each other's backs. So that's pretty awesome. But I love the Hungry Hippo shot. I had to include it. Okay, Central California population. We're still at 99 birds. We have still have 9 chicks in the nest. We're going to talk about the nest here in a little bit. We now have all of our rookies. We have 6 VWS birds at San Simeon, and Pinnacles received 6 birds a few weeks ago. So we're going to be releasing 12 birds to the wild this year, and hopefully have 9 chicks fledge, which is really exciting. So we're going to have a really big potential boost to the population this year. So we're pretty excited. I feel like we're finally getting back from rebounding from the Dolan fire that really knocked us back in 2020. That we're really starting to make headway, make not only get back to the number we were at right before the fire, which was right around 100 birds. Now we're going to surpass that, which is where we want to go. So yeah, big step there. Yeah, so far this year, no condor deaths. This time last year, we had 10 deaths. And so this is a welcome, refreshing pattern we'd love to see continue. Obviously, that can change at any moment. So we just are very thankful to have and fortunate to be where we're at right now. And again, we do have some missing birds that are likely deceased. So we're these missing birds in the wild, of course, 171. 477 Phoenix, 937, and 1144. Yeah, they're still missing, and it's looking less likely that they're going to turn up, unfortunately. But so yeah, with that condor deaths, it's probably closer to 4. So just a little caveat there. But even though we're still on track to have a really incredible year. All right, who wants to tackle Evan's movement map? Danae, Darren, any takers?
I can jump in. Yeah, we've had a lot of really awesome condor movements over the past month. So Evan did a nice job of kind of highlighting some of the big ones here. So starting at the top, that orange circle up there is condors 827 and 943. They were northeast of Fremont and just 13 miles south of Oakland Zoo. So they almost flew right over Bucky, hanging out at Oakland Zoo, which is pretty fun to think about, that we could have wild condors perching on the condor pen at Oakland Zoo. But yeah, really cool that they went that far north. We've had a couple other birds in the past that have done that just this summer and stuff, but still in September, we're still seeing birds doing that. So it's definitely a big year for condor movements for sure. You can see that pink circle right below is condors 986 and 1045. They actually went up into the Santa Cruz Mountains, which is cool. We don't have that happen too often, but we've had it happen a couple times this year as well. So lots of really exciting movements to the north this year in general. And then that blue circle that's just north of Pinnacles is condor activity, just showing a lot of condor activity increasing in the mountains northeast of Hollister and in that southern part of Henry Coe. So it's a really popular area. I know a lot of the public has been seeing condors in that area and sending in eBird reports and things like that, which is great. We actually review a lot of eBird reports and enter that into our database. So if you are someone who uses eBird and you have photos showing wing tags and things like that, definitely submit those eBird reports and we will most likely see them and log them in our data system. You can always send those pictures directly to us as well, but that's been a really helpful tool. And just knowing we knew some GPS birds were up in that area a lot, but we got a lot of photos of other birds that didn't have GPS that have also been spending time up there. So we've been doing a bit more radio tracking up in that area when we can. And definitely every time we go out, we pick up birds in that area. So it seems to be a new hot spot this summer for sure. And then that last point, all the way down at the bottom of the map, is bright green, just below San Simeon. That's actually from the 2023 release cohort from last year. So a lot of the birds that we released last year at San Simeon haven't left. They've stayed in the San Simeon area, and they've actually been finding a lot of carcasses on their own. They're not really hanging out at the release site, but they are spending time finding dead cows and dead deer and things like that out there. And they're finding food on their own, and they're surviving just fine. I know Rachel and Griffin have been doing a lot of tracking down there for those birds. When they're not watching the birds in the pen, they're out tracking the birds from last year. So they're kind of getting to know both release cohorts. But it's really cool that this is kind of the first time that this has happened, that we've had birds stay down in the San Simeon area. And it just, I think, to me, highlights how great of a habitat it is for them. You know, it is really usable condor habitat, and these birds are just taking advantage of it. 745 I know has been, or sorry, 758 has been hanging out a lot with them in that area too. So they might be following some older birds around too, but they're really kind of making that area their home. Several of them haven't made it up to Big Sur or Pinnacles yet. They seem pretty content to just kind of hang out down there, and they've been finding food. So I don't blame them for hanging out in that area. But just really cool to see that kind of natural range expansion happening in Central California as the population grows and we're releasing more birds and having more wild fledges. I suspect we'll start to see a lot more of this behavior for sure.
Yeah, it's a real testament to, you know, how much food is out there for these birds, how much great habitat there is, how much nesting habitat. You know, it's still pretty intact and perfectly suited for condors. So we get that question a lot: are these birds feeding on their own? This is classes, the 2023 cohort. I don't know the last time they fed on our food. So it's a real testament to, you know, these birds know what to do when they get out there, and there's plenty of stuff out there for them, plenty of habitat. So really cool to see it. It's definitely caught us by a little bit by surprise, but not really when you see where they're hanging out. Pretty amazing areas that they're just discovering, you know, just kind of rediscovering their historic range. Pretty darn awesome. All right, nesting. Who's going to start with Pinnacles?
I can jump in with Pinnacles and then I'll let Darren take over for Big Sur. But Pinnacles nests, all 5 are still doing really well. I actually just talked to one of the Pinnacles biologists today, and she said they're all doing great. They've had lots of their team out in the field monitoring these nests really regularly, and all the chicks are doing great. I know 1310, one of these chicks, they were kind of concerned about some health issues about a month ago. They weren't sure how that chick was doing, and that chick seems to be doing much better now. It looks really healthy, is doing everything it should be doing. So that's really encouraging. And the other nests outside the park, they're monitoring via GPS movements of the parents. And it seems like everything's still going well with those nests. And potentially you can see on the right hand side of this table here, you see some of these fledge dates. We got October 10th, we have October 4th. So we're gonna have some fledglings really soon here. And I have some recent news that potentially one of these chicks, that one at the very bottom, 1275, Pinnacle strongly suspects that chick has fledged. They're still waiting to confirm 100%, but it's very likely that we may have already had our first fledgling for the year. So that's
Awesome.
really exciting. And yeah, we're definitely, I think by the time we have the next Condor chat, we could have almost all of these chicks fledged, really, which is wild to think about. But yeah, all 9, crazy.
And then our next nest season is right around the corner.
Yeah. Yep.
The next nest season is about to start.
Never a dull moment, that's for sure.
Yeah. That's exciting about the fledge for sure. All right, Darren.
All right, so yeah, getting into our Big Sur nests. Also, all good news here. All of our nests are doing well. Yeah, like similar to Pinnacles, you know, in the next month we might see a couple fledges. We have a couple birds that might fledge a little later there with 1317 and 1318. Likely not due to fledge until November, but 1309 and 1315 will probably fledge in the next month. And for those of you who have been closely watching 1315 on their nest cam, that bird is getting very explorative and curious and yeah, spending more time outside of the cavity than not, it seems like these days. Checking out all the perches just right out there, right outside of the cavity there, perching on the cavity edge. They keep eyeing this one perch where we see their parents 550 and 652 come in and land on. They really want to get to that perch. So we'll see. I think they'll get there sooner than later. But yeah, that bird is growing up so fast. And yeah, I can't believe we're like their fledge is right around the corner. I sometimes get confused and think that's one of the adults. It's with how old it's looking already. So yeah, we're stoked for that.
On that note, Darren, Meredith put a video together if you want me to show it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Speaking of 1315, she got some insane footage as usual. Rock on, Meredith. Here we go. Incredible. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, another amazing video from Meredith.
That chick just has so much personality now that it's fully out of the cavity and stuff too. And you can tell from that video, it's fully feathered now and just looks like a untagged juvenile. It's wild how much that chick has grown so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hang on a second. Everyone see this?
Yeah.
All right, sorry about that.
Yeah, it all looks good. But yeah, just one other note on the nest here. I've got 3. I trapped 3 of these dads yesterday. So yeah, moms are holding down the fort. Big shout out to 626, 550, and 881 right now. And I know the dads want to get out, and we're eager to get them out next week. But yeah, the chicks, all these chicks are old enough now where they'll be all good with moms just bringing back food at this time. But yeah, we'll get these dads 729, 652, and 209 back out there soon. So yeah, we'll be following them closely once they're back out.
For sure. Yeah, we want to make sure we get them vaccinated and transmitted up.
Mm-hmm.
Protect the parents. Anything else to add on the nest front? Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, in the video, you see 1315 jump over to try to get to that perch, follow dad over there.
I was looking at the nest video this morning and he or she was doing the same thing, kind of hanging out, trying to get over to that branch, but not quite there yet, kind of bobbing around on those branches in between. And it was really, really cute to watch. That bird is trying to figure it out, still learning,
It's a leap of faith because the space between that branch isn't that far, but if it doesn't make it, it's 150 feet to the ground.
Yeah.
A little intimidating.
It's good that it's taking its time.
Yes. All right. This brings us to questions. Mike, how are we looking?
Questions as always. And our first one is from Ella in the Netherlands. She wants to know, do condors mate for life? You know, she's consulted several different sources and they say different things. And so we need to have an expert. And I understand that Danae is presenting her research on condor mating strategies, or at least a unique one, next month at a national scientific conference. And so, Danae, I'd like for you to be our expert authority on this and tell Ella whether condors mate for life and maybe some of the complexities of this subject.
Yeah, definitely. I've really enjoyed researching this topic a lot the past couple months and just digging into the data that we have on these birds. pretty much any type of breeding dynamic under the sun, it seems like condors are willing to experiment with and want to try it out. So they are generally considered what's called a monogamous species, which is a scientific term that we use to describe species that generally bond with one other partner for a long period of time. It's not always for life, but in general, it's these really long-term partnerships, breeding partnerships. And so that is a word that we use to describe condors, but I like to say condors are just as monogamous as humans are, right? In general, a lot of humans are monogamous, but not really. There's a lot of variation there, and condors are the exact same way. We have some pairs that just really bond closely and they stay together year after year after year, and they don't split up unless one of the members of the pair dies. And then we have other pairs that might stay together for a couple years and then something happens, we don't really know why, and they break up. That happened last year with 219 and 538 and 574, where 538, the female Miracle, and 574 Nomad were together for several years and they raised chicks together. And then 538 just decided last year, I'm going to mate with 219 instead. And so she started a pair with 219 and they're still together now. They raised Penny 1229 last year. So there's just some interesting strategies there that kind of break what we consider the norm for condors. And one of the things that I'm looking into too is not condor pairs, but condor trios. So we have some birds that choose to nest together, whether it's two males and a female or two females and a male. And they really form bonds just like a male-female pair would. They form really close partnerships. They all contribute to defending a nest territory. They all contribute to taking care of young, to incubating the egg, feeding their chicks, all that kind of stuff. They display to each other. They alloprene each other or preen each other's feathers and take care of each other, just like a pair would. So it's really, we see a lot of really unique behaviors with condors when it comes to breeding and forming these bonds. But they do, the one thing that we know for sure that runs universal is they do form pair bonds, and some last longer than others, but in general, a lot of them do stay together in these pairs or trios until a member of that pair or trio dies. They really do, in general, form these long-term partnerships. It's not always the case, but in general, we've had male-male pairs, male or female-female pairs as well. So they're really, I think a lot of that comes from the fact that they're not super strongly sexually dimorphic either. The sexes don't look super different. They're slightly different in size, but it's not a huge difference like with some other raptor species. And so, they all kind of look the same. They're all kind of the same size, and they all form these really unique partnerships with each other, with the goal of breeding and raising young together. So it's pretty cool. That's one of my favorite things about condors and why I was really interested in that topic. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to to talk about it a lot, because it's super fascinating. One of the things I love about these birds.
Keeping up with the condors is fascinating indeed. Ella, thanks for your question and good luck on your project. Another question, we talked a little bit about the how the birds interact with each other, and the question is, do birds generally all get along, or do they have to be separated? Now, Rachel and Griffin, has Joe ever asked you to separate any condors that are scuffling? And also, could you maybe talk about some of the observations you've seen from the wild birds that are flying out there? I know you're really looking at those rookies, but in general, at a carcass, how do the wild birds interact with each other, and do they generally all get along?
Yeah, I guess we've never had to separate a bird, I guess, but I think the main concern that we were looking for with these rookies were that if one particular bird was being picked on a lot, just because in that case, like if that bird wasn't able to eat enough food, and if they were losing weight, that would be concerning and they would need to be separated. But yeah.
Yeah, and just based on what we've seen with wild birds, especially up at Big Sur, they're pretty good at figuring out where they are in their sort of like hierarchy they have figured out. They have, of course, these very complex social structures, and I think it takes there's some scuffles, of course, but usually they're pretty good at figuring it out, like where they stand in the hierarchy and just avoiding conflict when necessary.
Kind of like me figuring out the hierarchy in high school growing up. We get it pretty quick what to do and what not to do. These condors are the same.
Exactly.
Yeah, lots of similarities.
Yeah. I've got a really difficult question that was submitted to us by mail. And I'm not sure I know the answer. So I'm going to pass it to Joe and see if we can find an answer or see if we need to maybe do some research on it. But the question is regarding the eye color of condors. Now we know they're red, and the question is, why do condors have red eyes?
Yeah, that's a great question. They aren't always red. When they're young, they're kind of like an amber. So our young rookies right now kind of have an amber color eye. And it kind of transitions with their head color, when they get bald and, bald, like, for example, when they get bald and start to get the coloration, the eyes go with that. So I would guess it has something to do with matching the skin coloration, which we know is how they communicate with each other. In some way, shape, or form, they're communicating with each other with their skin coloration. So I'd assume the eyes are an easy way for a young bird to know that that's an adult or something like that. But actually, that's one of the $1 million questions is why are condors' eyes red? But I think it ties in with maturity and becoming breeding age and a way of communicating to younger birds and letting other birds, older birds, know that they are adults. So it's my best guess.
I think it's something that really makes birds so cool is that it's species specific. So condors have red eyes with that nuance that you mentioned with the younger birds, but we see it in other species as well. The red-eyed vireo,
Yeah.
a young red-eyed vireo in their first year will have a brown eye, and then it gradually changes to red. The white-eyed vireo has a dark eye at first, and then it gradually gets more pale. And some species even have blue eyes. And so it just depends on who you are and, and how you're made up as to what advantage it might have or what purpose it might serve. That's a really good question. And I'm not sure what the answer to that is, but it's just something that really makes the world of birds very fascinating.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of questions that we haven't answered.
Yeah. One question that I think we can answer, Joe, is the ratio of males to females. Now, a few years ago, it was really heavily male dominated here in Central California. One, is that still the case? And two, do the other subpopulations have the same ratio?
Yes. Yeah, there was a skew towards males for sure, and it was across all subpopulations. And the good news is that trend is starting to balance out. The number of males is coming down closer, still slightly more male heavy, but the good news is it's starting to balance out. And a lot of that was driven by, in captivity, when they're raising these and rearing these young, they can't control whether it's a male or female. And the pattern was there was just more males than females being produced in captivity. So that's, obviously we're not going to release them because they're male. We're going to release them. So it was just a product of the whole recovery process. And we knew as the population grew, it would balance out. And unfortunately on the captive side too, they've had a more balanced gender. If you look at like our birds that are 10 years and less, it depends on what portion of the flock you look at. If you look at the younger half of our flock, you could almost argue there might be more females than males. So I think it was a product of the early release, the early part of the program when there was just so few birds. And but now we see that trend changing.
Thank you, Joe. And thanks to all of you, Rachel, Griffin, Danae, and Darren, and the 130 of you who have joined our web chat this month. A couple of you were quick to point out that the condors mentioned in my landowner letter were 1011 and 1180. And the landowner actually identified the orange and green tags for those birds. So we were able to confirm that. And so I'm impressed that you were right on there with those identifications. Join us for our next several Condor chats, October 31st. That'll almost be like a sort of a preview, because we're going to be right with you again on November 6th for the release. And then we'll have slight holiday changes in our web chats. November 21st is the November Condor chat, and December 19 is the December Condor chat. Shifted a little bit just because of the holidays, but still on Thursdays. So please join us for a series of Condor chats and releases.
Yeah, we're gonna stack them up, Mike. And this next one's really exciting. We did shift, as Kelly said, we kind of go with the last Thursday. We shifted this one so we could accommodate this awesome special guest, Dr. Christina Harvey. And it's going to be on Halloween, so that'll be easy to remember. And she's going to talk to us about she's a aerospace engineer, and she is working on, they're using condors to help them basically design better aerial UAVs. So they're looking at the flight mechanics of condors and breaking them down to just get basically what it says here, a fundamental understanding of how these birds fly, and using that to apply it to technology. So it'd be really fascinating. I've been kind of looking forward to this one. We work with UC Davis on other fronts with condors, and this was a really unique research project I found out about. And they used one of our condors. You know, it's always sad to lose a condor, but one of our condors, 242, was used as part of this project. He was fully intact, and they studied his wings. They did a 3D computer scan of his entire wingspan, and have used it to basically for their research project. So I honestly, I don't know enough about it. We're going to learn all about it from Christina Harvey at the next Condor chat. So it should be pretty fascinating. So definitely come join us, and we'll of course give our regular Condor updates too. So there'll be a lot packed in there. But I know I'm excited to hear from her and hear what she's doing, how she's using condors to help understand aerodynamics.
That sounds very interesting. We look forward to that. I look forward to joining you, Joe, on that. And on behalf of you, Joe, and our director, Kelly, thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you, everybody.